all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. You're listening to 919. My name is Jack Devnarain. This is Reality Radio. It's what we do every Friday night when we have a guest live in studio to talk about the incredible stories that shape their remarkable lives. Tonight, my very good friend, award-winning actor, musician, Muay Thai fighter, Clint Brink. Welcome to you, buddy.
Uncle Jack.
You see, what is this uncle thing about?
You know what? Well, you know, I know like the Cape Town buzz. You know, when you get to a certain age, when the guys call you, when you pick up the phone and they call, they're like, "Uncle, where you? What you doing, Uncle?" So a term of endearment.
All right, no, I get it. And I know it comes from a place of love and respect.
Oh, definitely, huge. Because of you know, as the saying goes, how a man does one thing is oftentimes how he does everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And through your work and watching your work and seeing how diligent you are and actually how intentional you are in your craft, you know, you see all of the things that build the persona as well. You know, the fact that you are a power lifter, it takes a certain type of mindset. It takes a surety in who you are and building it there, so you have confidence in actually in the technique and the time spent more than just raw ability.
You know, the funny thing about that, Clinton, thank you for saying that, is that it really, I apply myself more to being a power lifter than to being an actor sometimes, because being an actor is so much of fun, as you know.
Yes.
You can set these actors loose on that set and they will have the biggest joy because they're amongst each other in a creative space.
Yes.
But then I know what's deficient in me as a lifter. So I always have to work harder as a lifter.
Isn't
that crazy?
Yeah, no, but that's great though, because it's the process, you know.
Yeah.
Who was the guy that invented the Alexander technique? It was an actor from Australia that invented the Alexander technique. And he basically said in the Alexander technique that anyone who has physical impairments are basically emotionally dishonest as well.
Oh.
And I thought about that for a while, right? And I was like, I get it. It makes sense. Like, for a long time when I had a major ankle injury, right? And I had to have reconstructive surgery done on my left ankle.
Okay, sure.
So what happened was, it took me 2 years to walk properly, but I didn't stop walking, right?
Yeah.
The body still wants to continue, it still wants to, you know, execute its purpose. And that's actually what happens with us when we have emotional injuries as well, you know, and you don't rehab that injury. You actually start developing belief systems and coping mechanisms around that to excuse or have an excuse for that emotional impairment.
Oh man, that's hard also, because as an actor you got to be so self-reflective that you got to identify those hiding places, hey?
Yes.
And so often you'll find yourself in a role, or a director who really knows you, he's going to tell you,
call you on it,
to go there.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
terrifying.
So I find I had a conversation with someone on set one day, and they asked me about scene pacing. And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, you just have such a natural ability to pace yourself, you know, different in different states of being." And you know, I kind of like gave away one of my secrets, and I was like, "Well, here's the thing. Oftentimes, if I engage another actor, I will actually go at him as if I'm in sparring."
Oh, that's great. Okay, so you can translate your physicalness in Muay Thai sparring into a performance space.
Yes, because I know what it feels like when someone places me under pressure and how quick I have to think.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm on the back foot, if I have good head movement, good footwork, you know, if I have a good vocabulary of using my tools, it's exactly the same thing for me.
I love that idea about the tools. And I remember you've come across one of our an award-winning casting directors, Krista Schamberger.
Yes.
I remember she gave a talk to a bunch of actors once, and she was drawing an analogy, showing actors that the more skills you have as an actor, the more tools you have in your toolbox.
Yes.
And she was saying if you can speak different languages, if you've got a musical ability, if you're familiar with maybe music, you can play a guitar, or you're a sketch artist, whatever it might be, all these things are valuable because it adds another tool into the toolbox.
Yeah. It's also like how we assimilate information differently then,
Yeah.
Your thinking just doesn't have to be linear or in a box. You now have more things to choose from. Your referencing is a lot bigger as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can superimpose templates over each other and see, well, what happens if I take this and I put that on top of that?
Yeah.
What happens?
Oh, no, I'll be confused.
Yeah.
I'll be done. I'll
Just
have to
add
walk
more
away.
plates.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that.
And chalk.
Yes. Chalk up. So you grew up in Paarl, is that right?
I did, yes. Yes, I grew up in Paarl, was born in Wellington.
Yeah.
So always commuted between Wellington and Paarl. My dad was originally from Paarl, from Wellington, my mom from Paarl.
Yeah.
She was a teacher at Polis Joburg Primary, and that's where I went to primary school. It was a hard one.
I know this thing about having a mum who's a teacher, because it was my mum who opened that world of language and performance. It was playtime, really.
Yes.
And to a large extent, me going into an acting situation still is playtime.
Yes.
What was your mum's influence on you growing up?
Man, to be honest, primary school that we went to, they didn't really know much about acting.
Yeah.
We didn't really have acting teachers or lecturers coming from the school that I came from, But my mom was a political activist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Church-going lady, community person, and then obviously an educator. So you have all of these elements of someone who actually just wanted to uplift the lives of people around her, because the school that she went to, it was evident to see that most kids would probably only have their only meal at school, or it would be a safer place for them to be at school.
Yeah.
So she would then initiate programs like the Miss Polis beauty pageant, have some extra mural activities. And then, because I went to school at a really young age, I just turned 5. My birthday is in September at the end of the year. So everyone in class was at least 2 or 3 years older than me. So sports was tough for me, right?
Right, being younger than most.
Being younger than most and, guys developing faster, it was really tough. And then sub A, I'm not going to say grade 1 because we are not the same age when we talk about grade 1.
Yeah.
Sub A, I did my first I Steadfoot.
Oh.
And I remember my mom coached me to recite a poem.
Beautiful. And you know what? I'm going to see if you even remember something about that poem. But we're gonna come back to that. I'm gonna give you a chance, right? I'm gonna give you a few minutes just to think
Marinating.
about that. Because this is reality radio. We're gonna take a bit of a break. Coming back to Clint Brink just after this.
They say nothing ever lasts. But what about the Fast and Furious franchise? Or showing Anaconda 2 for Friday Action Night? Or how Brooke is still forgiving Ridge Forrester like 50 seasons in? And then there's Burger King's Whopper Meal deal, which is still going strong. So get your hands on 2 flame-grilled Whoppers topped with the freshest ingredients, plus 2 portions of crispy golden fries and 2 bottomless drinks for only 130 Rand. Only at Burger King, where good things do last.
The Feel Good Drive with Nicole De Silva.
Do you know that homes in Nigeria get built with generators? They're not even trying to be fighting with their provider.
Every house there that they had literally had a generator. You could literally hear the generator on the show.
Oh no.
Just running and running and running,
Yeah.
and while they're actually having a conversation.
Monday to Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. only on 919.
It's Friday night, it's Reality Radio with me, Jack Devnarain, in conversation tonight with Clint Brink. Clint, you are 5 years old at the time of your first I Stedford.
Yeah,
So it would have been on a stage somewhere in a nice school hall.
100%.
Yeah. And you had community, teachers, your friends, all in the audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, was that at that time the most terrifying thing you've ever done?
No. No, I think the thing that scared me the most was,
Yeah.
and I'll be really honest, was firstly not to forget my words, obviously.
Always. But even now.
Even now. No, even now.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
Yes.
and then also just not to leave that space feeling disappointed, you know, either disappointing my mom or disappointing myself more than anything. That seeing the crowd was actually a welcomed space for me to be in. I was like, my mom was a hard lady, you know.
Really?
And yeah, she was from the beginning, especially when it came to this. I remember we had like the kitchen had blue tiles and blue walls, right? Blue and white. And she was busy coaching me through this poem, and I wasn't cracking it in the beginning. I was distracted and wanting to be a kid and getting frustrated because I'm not remembering the inflections, the pauses, and all of these things. And you know, she started really going at me, and then, you know, I stopped and I got frustrated. And she said, listen, if you're gonna cry now, you must you got two choices. You get it out of your system now and you do this thing properly, or you never do this again.
That's pressure.
She said, you don't waste my time, you don't waste your time, you don't waste anyone else's time. So decide now. And my mom was like that, but I also understand it's because the environment that we came from, you know, the neighborhood that we came from.
Yeah.
When I was in standard 3, there were people that were already smoking buttons in my class, you know.
Oh.
So it was a rough neighborhood. There wasn't really a lot of positivity for our people to and hope to hold on to, that you could actually become anything other than, you know, the limited options that they prescribe people. So she was like, if you're going to do anything, you do it with everything, or you don't do it.
I can just imagine her standing there and saying, you got to speak, my boy. You got to use your voice and speak.
Yes. Yeah, no, she was like that.
Yeah.
To the finest detail. And I'm so thankful for it. So my mom was, in essence, my first acting teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's an amazing similarity, because my mom was my speech and drama teacher in high school and as a matric subject. So
Man.
I remember the conversations we used to have. And it was so enlightening, because she had obviously studied English as part of her teacher training. It was her area, her major. She had also done fine art. And I realized that the conversations we were having wasn't just opening my mind to how people's psychology drives them into certain plots and stories, right? Because it's always motivated
Yes.
by something. What is your need? It also opens the world of what happened in history, in time gone by, what's happening in other countries, in other places, with other nations, in other languages.
Yes.
And that was the journey for me that I treasure most. So was your mum also, I mean, obviously she was an activist as well at the time. We're talking
Yes.
about the very early 80s, right?
Yes.
Did she try to conscientize you into political activism as well?
Well, she went out and showed me the difference between what it looks like when you have a lot and what it looks like when you don't.
Right.
And how, you know, systemically, how certain things benefit certain people, and systemically it was just a negative experience for the majority of people. Like, I think I was standard 2 or standard 3, around about there. And there was a day where we had tear gas shot through the window.
Oh, man.
When we came out, primary school kids coughing and disorientated, running around. You know, the police came down with the hoses and with the rubber bullets and shot at the high school kids, who then jumped over the fence into the primary school area.
And they didn't care, right, about primary school?
Yeah, no, they just like went at like kids and teachers alike.
Yeah.
And then I also remember having to march to Parliament at that very young age with the teachers, because we were like 5 or 6 kids on one textbook. you know. So from the beginning of my life, I was really aware that there are social injustices, and that the system is set up to benefit some, you know.
Yeah. And in many ways, though, you wonder what's changed, especially in our creative sector.
Yeah.
We look around and we just think, but hang on, the injustice remains in so many ways. Time and technology has changed,
Yes.
but the way people exploit others hasn't.
No.
How it makes me really angry, I have to say, because I might have missed that boat as an activist. If I think back to my years in primary, high school, as a young university student, I knew there were guys out there who were taking real risks.
Yes.
Man, those guys were getting locked up and they were getting beaten and tortured.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in that group. I didn't feel as if I wanted to be.
Yes.
Now, my friend,
Yeah.
now I have a burning need for the message to be heard,
Yes.
to mobilize people on a massive scale. And I noticed that you would always, whenever we used to start talking about stuff, whenever I put something on social media, you would always be one of the first to step up and say, "Yeah, I'm here to promote this."
Yes.
Is that part of what drove you? Is the time, your mum, her influence, your sense of right and wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, that became a difficult thing to be in this industry, to speak up against
Yeah.
injustices
Yeah.
in a system where they really just want you to shut up and put up and do the job and go home.
Sure.
Don't shed a light on anything else except what it is we pay you to do. And I'm sorry, I'm just not wired that way.
No, you're not. No, you're not, my friend. So how many names do you go by? I remember you walked in here, producer Mataba Taba, he mentioned you by
Tino.
Tino.
Yeah.
Is that the most famous one?
Tino is definitely one. He's up there. Yeah, I was on Scandal for about 7.5 years playing that role.
Yeah.
And it was also a conscious decision to play a role like that because I just came from Generations, and I played a barman who just came out of jail, who had dyslexia, whose mother was a prostitute. Does it ring a bell?
Oh my goodness.
And after playing that character for a couple of years, and when I spoke to the producers and I said, okay, well, where is this going? Is this guy going to evolve? Are we going to see something else from him? They couldn't really give me an answer. And I just didn't feel comfortable, being the tool used to okay the negative stereotypes that brown folk has been, kind of like painted with.
Yeah.
I couldn't be the one being used to mobilize that because that wasn't why I was there.
Well, you were being used as a kind of a poster boy to reinforce that thinking, right?
Yes, to make it okay.
To make it okay, yeah.
To make it okay,
Yeah.
And I left, and I had an opportunity to then may not crack. I had a conversation with him and I said, listen, man, I can't do this anymore, man. How's it over there at Scandal? He goes, my guy, you called it the right time. Let me introduce you to the producer. We had a conversation and he said, there's a young guy, protagonist. He's a property developer. He has money. He's skilled. He's intelligent. He's driven. And I was like, it's time that people who tune into that primetime time slot have an opportunity to see a young, aspirational brown man leading something. So I felt privileged to be in that position.
That's incredible. Because whether we like it or not, to our audiences, and I mean, in my case, to many Indian audiences, people look up to you and they say, this guy is an important figure for us because he represents something in mainstream media that we are aspiring to. Whether you take on that mantle or not, it really doesn't matter. It's about whether people see that in you.
Yeah.
And that gives you a sense of responsibility, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Look, you can be oblivious to the fact. You can be oblivious to it, if you don't want to pick up the responsibility. But when millions of people watch you do what you do and they now know you, automatically you have stepped into a space where you're under a magnifying glass. Everything you do is amplified. So therefore, you have to be cautious about the types of choices you make. You know,
Yeah.
who you are, what it is, what you're saying. You know, if you are the type of individual who has that awareness and who actually cares about the ripple effects of your choices.
Have you beaten that stereotype, or is that still work in progress?
Man, the stereotype is always a work in progress. But I also think that, you know, you can't just take like a one-prong approach to this. There are many ways to skin a cat. Like I just finished a production where I was a little bit concerned with I would say the spiritual aspect of something, right?
Okay.
But then I thought about it. I'm like, this is actually the perfect position for me to speak to people's hearts, because what I see and what I experience in life, you know, if I have an opportunity to step up to the plate and talk about it, maybe it'll be able to then change just the way that people see it. So I take up the responsibility. That's also probably why I've chosen not to apply myself to in certain ways, you know?
Yeah. And you become more discerning as well, generally, right? As you know, the more time we spend in this industry, the more selective and discerning we become. And that's
Yes.
a natural process, isn't it?
Yeah, well, hopefully if you have some form of maturity, if you mature into that. I know a lot of people that are our ages who, for them it's just about the gig, you know, as long as they can stay relevant, and I get it as well.
Yeah.
You know, as long as they can stay relevant, you know, make that money, feel like they are still an A-lister, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Where there are other people who feel like I would rather be a part of work that is transformative, because if I am transformed by the work, then therefore whatever it is I echo after that will also be able to carry that message of transformation in it.
That is a big deal, man. And it's something I really wanted to ask you about as well. This idea about celebrity.
Yeah.
I know that people see themselves as celebrities and people will call them celebrities. The question I have is, do you see yourself as a celebrity?
No.
Yeah? Why?
No, I think I see myself more as an artist.
Yeah.
Because naturally that's where my that's where my creative sentiments lie. It's what gives me peace, I'll be honest. Being a celebrity won't give me peace.
What defines a celebrity?
Well, I firstly have to be so concerned about what others think of me. And I know, man, I've had a
That's
couple
so
of
true.
Yeah,
So
firstly,
true.
when you speak to PR and publicity people, you know, when you have to like etch out a brand for yourself, they ask you a couple of questions. The first one they'll ask is like, how do you perceive yourself, right? And how do you perceive your brand? Then you have to write that down. Then they'll ask you, how do you think other people perceive you and perceive your brand? Which is important, because I also think as an actor, you need to know what your face looks like. You need to know what your strong points and your weak points are, so that you know where you kind of like fit into what kind of pool, you know, who's with you in that pool, and also what do you have that will make you unique on the day to get the gig, hopefully, you know? And I find like with celebrity, it's about, you know, what you wear, who dressed you, you know, locations and where you're going to and stuff like that. Where I was more interested in artists, you know, people who, I don't even think they have Instagram pages. I think they have companies that run Instagram pages for them, but people who just care about doing good work. That was always my focus from day one. It still is today. Good work, and the credibility of my work will speak for who I am, you know. I can't do all those other things. I suck at it.
No, in any case, and I totally get that, because also having a sense of your background and your childhood, sometimes it feels like people who want to lose themselves in the materialist trappings, you know, are not honoring that journey. That they don't truly represent the values that they were raised with.
Yeah.
And that's why for me I totally get why you reject that kind of vanity and that superficiality. It's not you. You'd rather be seen as an artist with integrity.
Yeah, if I can put it to you like this. Okay, so now you play a character, right? You have an opportunity. Firstly, this character has a set of circumstances that you in your personal life have never experienced.
Yeah.
Right? You now cannot hate the character that you're playing. You have to be in 100%, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now going through the tension and then the resolution of this character, right? You as a human being, if the writing is good, if the directing is good, and you were able to submerge yourself in the work, right? When you get home and you take the skin off and you hang this character in the back of the door, right, and you have a sit and you're able to debrief, you as the human being gain the insights and the knowledge of what that character went through. So therefore, I am no longer the same. I have now been stretched larger. So how can I then return to a default setting when my craft is saying, when they see me portray a character on TV or on film, right? Then they shouldn't see Clint Brink the brand. They should see that character. So I have to kind of like dissolve.
I love that you make space for that. And we're going to take a break now. We'll be back to the conversation about inhabiting the character. It's Reality Radio. Clint Brink is our guest.
919 has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, programming that is not harmful to children and that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. If you think we're not living up to that code, you can inform the BCCSA. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa to PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024, or email the BCCSA at napsa.co.za. For more information, visit the bccsa.co.za. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for Reality Radio, as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
It's Reality Radio. It's a Friday night. It's me, Jack Devnarain, in conversation with Clint Brink. Clint, of all the things in your life that people are jealous about, do we need to even mention that you married a literal beauty queen?
That was just luck.
Now, come on.
Pure
now.
luck.
Please, now. I mean, Steffi is, also I can see the two of you on social media. You guys are absolutely a team in every way.
Yes.
There's so much that you share. It's your sensibility, your appreciation of each other, your appreciation for strength, health, fitness.
Yes.
Also, that's a big deal.
Yes.
So many areas that you engage in. That must be having your closest buddy with you all the time.
100%.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it any better. She is definitely. Man. We had a conversation recently. I was in PE at a jazz festival.
Yeah.
And I was emceeing and performing there for 2 days. And I had a conversation with some of the young guys there, and you see the young guys checking out all of the nice looking girlies and then we had a chat, and I had a chat with this one saxophonist, and he was looking at this one particular girl, and I said, you know what, man, you're going to go to all of these shows, you're going to meet all of these people, they're going to see you perform, they're going to fall in love with your talent, and, stage persona and all these things, and you might be tempted and all of that. But I said, you know what saves me, really? I had a couple of bad relationships, and a old friend of mine, she passed away now. She said, Clint, do me a favor, write down on the page what you like about your relationship and what you don't like about your relationship. I was like, how's that going to work? That's not going to do anything. She's like, just do it. Just as an exercise, do it for yourself.
Yeah.
I wrote down what I liked about the relationship and what I didn't like about the relationship. And once I saw what I didn't like about the relationship was almost 3 times as long as what I liked about the relationship, the relationship was done immediately.
Yeah.
So
like an audit.
So for me, it's kind of like the same thing. I mean, you'll find people that have different types of gifts, and you might admire certain people for certain things, but it's simple for me. If I have to write down all of the things that I love about my wife and my relationship, the value that I get out of that is something that I've never been in before in my life. So it makes it easy for me to not want to even trade gold with gold-plated stuff, sir.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You got the real deal, man.
I've got the real deal.
But you are as well the real deal. I wanted to know, do you think you can be to your baby girl the kind of father that yours was to you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I do. Definitely. I think my dad, I mean, he passed away last year.
Oh man, so sorry.
Hey, thank you. But in the 65 years of him being on earth, he gave me a couple of things. He didn't have to give me a lot, but the few things that I got from him were powerful. Firstly, my dad was the type of person, excuse me, once he said he was going to do something,
Yeah.
he'll do it.
It'll be done.
And people around him would say, but you don't even have the skill set for that. You're not even prepared for stuff like that. I mean, you're not even conditioned for that.
Yeah.
He would just smile, nod his head, and then come back and show them
Oh,
the
wow.
paperwork. It's like, yeah, I just did
Oh,
it.
wow.
Right? And I got that from him. So when I came into the industry, I was exactly the same. I said, that I will have, that I will do. And I went out and I did it.
Yeah.
You know? And then later in his life, I started learning more about him and his upbringing, actually. And then I realized how alike I am to my dad. My dad he seemed to be an extroverted guy, but he was actually a really quiet guy. Guy in the background, you know, a guy that liked the finer things, who was in the pursuit of self-mastery, martial artist. So that's
Also,
kind of like,
your dad was a martial artist.
yeah, he was.
Okay.
He was second dan black belt Kyokushinkai. You know, he had natural athletic ability when he is soccer player, striker at the age of 16, playing in the Virginia League Cup.
Yeah.
Avid golfer, cricket player, you know, table tennis captain for Western Cape.
He's got all the skills.
He had all the skills, you know, and then he had a business mind to him as well. So, and my dad showed me what it looks like when you have love in the home. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest gift he could have given me.
Yeah.
With regards to my marriage and my home life and my family life, you know. Yeah. He was always a guy, you put your family first.
It never occurred to me. I mean, obviously there's work and there's, you know, activism and lifting and all those wonderful things. But having a family around me, it never occurred to me that there's anything more than that.
Yeah.
Family
Yes.
for me is everything.
It's everything. It's everything. I'll be honest with you, Jack. Like, yeah, I've been blessed to have a career where I've had many different types of experiences, good and bad. You know, I was able to meet a lot of people, you know, have a vast network, build a name for myself or some form of credibility. But I'll be honest with you, if all it says on my tombstone the day I go that I was a good actor, then I was a really shallow human being. Because there's only one aspect of who I am.
Absolutely.
And acting cannot cover my entire my entire being, you know?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And we can't define ourselves by the work that we do.
No. So yes, family definitely is everything.
What are some of the stories that you wish can still be told, should still be told from Paarl and Wellington and those areas that you grew up in? What are the stories we still need to know about?
Oh man, if I take a look at the neighborhood, I mean, obviously we have stories of lots of middle class stories of people struggling, you know, stories of spirit and hope, people overcoming severe circumstances. You know, if I have to take a look at my own life, right? If you just drive through Paarl, and if you had to drive through Paarl in the 80s and early 90s, there's no infrastructure that will give you an inkling of an idea that some form of TV national success can come from there.
Yeah.
You know, theater was kind of like, that was it. If you've made it big in theater, then that was it.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think the thing that motivated me a lot is my grandfather, just before he passed away, called me into the room and he was like, so Clint, your mom tells me that you're doing this acting thing. Are they going to pay you for it? I'm like, yeah, they're paying me for it. He's like, really? I said,
love it.
yeah. And I told him, I said, this is how much I'm getting paid for it. He was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
He says, okay, but when you're done with this acting thing, then get a real job.
When
right?
you're ready to work.
But that motivated me because I was always asked, how will you provide for a family?
Yeah.
How will you be able to put your kids through school?
What will you fall back on?
What will you fall back on? And I was just like, this is all I have. So I'm going to give it everything I have. And, you know, fortunately the cards fell like they did. and I'm still here being able to contribute.
And we know also how difficult it is because, I mean, we are in contact with dozens and dozens, hundreds of people every month who are saying, I've got the skills, I need a break.
Yeah.
You know, I'm ready for this. I know it's my time. I know I'll be able to make a difference. I can contribute. I can bring value. And they just need a break.
Yeah.
And it reminds you the gift that we were given of having the break at the time that we had. And you come in there and even then, a lot has to do with whether the audience takes to you or not.
Yes.
I know any number of people who have had the break.
Yes.
And they came in there and somehow the audience just didn't take to them.
Yeah.
And they were done.
And they were done. Yeah, no, I've been fortunate in that regard, really.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to the acting spaces, I've been blessed, if I have to put it like that, man. I always do my best. Like when I walk into a space, I want to make sure that I'm charged.
Yeah.
I have. It's not just about executing the technique, and you know, making sure that I can execute my root intention for what it is that I'm doing. It's also understanding that sometimes it's going to be my responsibility to even charge the environment that I'm in.
Ah, okay, yeah.
You know, to really set people. How do you command respect? How do you bring authority to a space without saying a word? You have to pull it from somewhere deep in you, you know? And there's something, and I think this is where the fighting thing was also interesting for me, because within the first 3 seconds when they call you to the center of the ring and fighters look at each other in the eye, right? I know this guy is going to fight hard in the first and the second round. I'm going to start putting pressure on him in the second round. He's going to break.
Yeah.
Or you walk up to that guy, he takes a look at you and going like, I'm toast today.
Oh.
Yeah, this guy is going to like butter me on both sides and marmalade me. So let's just hope you feel it as an animal. You feel that instinct.
Yeah.
And I think if you can find the pathway that activates that, and you're able to reproduce that in different settings, I think that can make you dangerous, you know?
What is it about martial arts, or what is it about your journey to Muay Thai that you felt was absolutely compelling, that you needed to do this as almost like a rite of passage, as a way of affirming yourself to yourself?
So there were a couple of things. Growing up in the 80s, I watched a lot of action movies, man.
Dude, you're talking about Rocky and Rambo in the same decade.
All of them.
And Jean-Claude Van Damme.
And Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Yeah, all of them
in the
were
same
there.
decade.
No.
What do you think was going to happen?
Exactly. I mean, they put us in primary school when they had like a video, like a movie there on a Friday.
Yes,
put all of the primary schools in the class, 2 features, 2 Bruce Lee movies. Let colored kids come out of that class, you know, and
you're ready to fight, man.
That's what was the Fist of Fury was happening. You know what I mean? Right there on the tarmac, sir. But I think what it did, it represented a form of self-mastery to me that I still struggle with to this day.
Yeah.
You know, it's not necessarily perfectionism, because, you know, I struggle with a lot of perfectionist issues in the beginning of my career. I still do, where I have to tell myself, it's not about that, you know? But the striving to want to be the best possible me I can be is what I feel the martial arts represented in a physical capacity to the artistic side, you know.
That's incredible, because I remember also, my dad taught me lifting when I was a boy. I was in primary school, and he had a fantastic home gym, real bars and plates and collars and equipment and benches and things. Not that I could use any of it then. I was still too young, but I grew into it. By the time I came into my senior primary phase, I was using most of it. I was lifting well into my high school years, into university. It was only when my son was born in 1998 that I realized I needed to be a lifter in order to prove myself to myself.
That's it.
It was quite a lesson, and you know, we learn so much about ourselves in those moments of pressure. But there's no pressure. I'm asking you to come back because we're taking a short break now. It's Reality Radio. We're with Clint Brink, and we're taking a short break. See us after this.
The Feel Good Drive with Nicole De Silva.
Do you know that homes in Nigeria get built with generators? They're not even trying to be fighting with their provider.
Every house there that they had literally had a generator. You could literally hear the generator on the show.
Oh no.
Just running and running and running, and while they're actually having a conversation.
Monday to Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. only on 919.
They say nothing ever lasts. But what about the Fast and Furious franchise? Or showing Anaconda 2 for Friday Action Night? Or how Brooke is still forgiving Ridge Forrester like 50 seasons in? And then there's Burger King's Whopper Meal deal, which is still going strong. So get your hands on 2 flame-grilled Whoppers topped with the freshest ingredients, plus 2 portions of crispy golden fries and 2 bottomless drinks for only 130 Rand. Only at Burger King, where good things do last.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
We're back. It's reality radio this Friday night with me, Jack Devnarain, on 919. Clint, I was worried at a certain point, and I still am, that we don't have nearly enough Afrikaans drama on our national broadcaster. It feels as if that entire community is not being served with drama and soapies and things.
Do you watch CakeNet?
No.
Well, CakeNet's Afrikaans, and they kind of like do all of the Afrikaans drama and stuff. Are you being a little bit more...
I'm talking national broadcaster.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah, definitely.
more accessible to the majority of audiences.
Yes.
And especially Binnelanders was cancelled, and I was thinking, that's got to hurt.
Yeah.
Hey, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that there are more people in colored communities who speak Afrikaans than white Afrikaans speaking people.
In South Africa, definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest Afrikaans speaking demographic in South Africa are brown people, are colored people.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
you see, and surely they want to have their stories told.
Definitely. You know, so it kind of like begs the question, like, why isn't that platform there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really do feel to a large degree there is still a narrative that we are not able to tell our own stories. You know,
Yeah.
there's still this thing of like, you know, we need to have our hands held
Yeah.
to get things done. When was it? Even if you take a look at what SABC used to be, I think SABC 3 had a lot of like Indian programming, right?
Yes, they did. Yeah. Eastern Mosaic, Mela. Yeah.
Right.
But that was it.
But
Yeah.
but that was it, right?
Yeah.
So we take a look at what we see now on Netflix and Showmax and everywhere else. Really, it's like Afrikaans speaking colored people were all put into the CakeNet drawer with
Okay.
everyone. I don't know who made this decision. Probably the broadcasters made this decision. But
Yeah.
look, I also understand why people end up doing certain things.
Yeah.
The industry is not easy. So for
Never,
them
yeah.
to navigate, they need to have some form of return of investment.
Mm.
Who are we speaking to? Who are we making the show for?
Mm.
And if it's going to cost us 12,000 Rand per minute per day to do the show, right?
Mm.
Will we be able to either break even or pay people salaries? So we have to consider certain things.
That is
right?
the bottom line.
But now the problem is we end up pushing more product than we actually create art because,
Mm.
you know, the people who make these decisions are not necessarily artistic. They are lawyers and accountants who tell artists
Yeah.
how to be artists.
And then they don't necessarily play in the TV space.
No.
They would usually be playing in the film space.
Yes. So that is definitely something that we should explore. Man, if I can be frank, I had a conversation with the publicist, right? A friend of mine, and I was like, hey, you know, we should have partnered up a long time ago, and we should have done some work together. And he said to me straight, he was like, there's no business in brown people. I was like, what? And I got,
hang on, what?
yeah, he said, but this is a color guy himself, right?
Yeah.
So I was offended at first. He was like, listen to what I'm saying, Clint. There's no business in brown folk. I'm like, what is this? Then it kind of like hit me a little bit later, right? Because as colored folk, we have not monetized our own culture. We have not reinvested money back into our own communities. You know, we are still dependent on others to help us out in our situation.
Ooh.
We don't have a sustainable economic foundation for us as a people, for us to build on, to have a voice. We haven't even gotten to the point where we've really formalized ourselves as a people. There's still factions. You know, we're still on the mending side of things.
Yeah.
You know, who's lighter skinned, who's darker skinned.
Oh,
This
I get
one's
you.
here,
Okay,
that
yeah,
one's,
yeah. Okay,
you know.
yeah.
So we're still not knowing, we still don't know how to move together as a unit. And I guess it has, there are lots of factors.
Yeah.
But I do believe that if we had to get to the point of investing in ourselves, in telling our own stories, and maybe strength in numbers could change that.
That's real mobilizing now. You know, that's going to take a lot, because to be able to harness everyone's thinking about identity
Yes.
must be the hardest thing.
It's tough.
In your music, do you also sing in Afrikaans?
I've sung in Afrikaans recently. It's not a natural thing for me because
Okay.
I kind of like more grew up listening to what most brown people I think listen to if you're from Cape Town. It's more international stuff, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, all those types of things. So that was my
You're
natural
talking
form
about
of
my
expression.
playlist right
Yeah.
there, man.
Yeah, so that was it for me. But recently I had the great opportunity to work with some big Afrikaans artists. And
Yeah.
it was really cool for me to exercise that muscle. Yeah, gave me the confidence to do whatever it is I want to do now in that space.
When it comes to flexing those artistic muscles, which one comes easier to you, as an actor or as a musician?
I would say as an actor, it comes a lot easier to me because I'm less scared.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I can hide behind the character.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hide behind the character, but I feel like if you're going to have a voice and if you're going to put out music, and maybe that's the thing that also kind of the saving grace for me, I would say, because I never needed to make music to earn a living. So I could always do what I felt I wanted to do. Right.
That's quite liberating.
Definitely. But it's also tough because that
Yeah.
means, I'm swimming upstream. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily doing the, the commercial thing,
Yeah.
I'm not really tapping into what people want. I'm more focusing on what I think it is I would like for them to hear from my perspective, which, there are pros and cons to that. But, yeah, I think acting comes more naturally for me because I've just spent more time doing it.
When you have young performers around you and people coming into the industry or people about to make their debut, what do they ask you most about? What are their concerns?
Man, young people just ask me, what do I need to do to get onto Generation?
Is
Or
that
to that show?
Is
Yeah.
that still the boss show?
That's like kind of like the things like, hey, my man, yo, Tino, what must I do
Yes.
if I want to work in the newsroom? I'm like, bro, do what we all did. Get yourself an agent, get some headshots done,
Yeah.
go see them. Do you have any form of education in the space? Do you know what it? No,
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, maybe you would like to get that along the way
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
But there's nothing really that we do differently than the guy that has to start out right now. We all have to go through the same process. So you're gonna have to get your chops in order. Get
One of my best stories ever, and when I started the show in March this year, my first guest was somebody who I look up to and consider to be a mentor to me, is Zane Mears.
Yes.
And one of my earliest memories is Zane Mears taking me under his wing when I'm 2 weeks in Joburg. And, he says, come, have you been to Cresta Center? Let's go and have a cool drink. And I was so excited. Yeah, okay, cool, Cresta Center, here we go. And we're walking around and you can imagine Zane Mears suddenly being surrounded by all these people. And one young woman comes to him and says, Mr. Mears, you came to my school like 5 years ago and you said, what I have to do to become an actress. And I took your advice and I finished my degree and now I'm going to be an actress. And I was just absolutely blown away. These stories actually happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. Man, I've sat with a couple of people, even like friends that I've mentored along the way who discovered that, this is something that they would like to do. You need to know yourself.
Absolutely. It's so beautifully put, actually. So listen, your baby girl,
Yes.
Oriel.
Ariel, yeah.
Oriel.
Yes.
She is now a year old.
She's 14
And
months.
When last was she on screen? When was she on radio last?
Kom say hello to
Yes, she is. She's coming.
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the debut on reality radio, Oriel Brink. Here she is.
Who's that?
Look, she even walked up to you. That's amazing. She's quite steady.
A couple of days ago, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, she's gonna be like a mom, man.
You can
Champ.
She's got the smiley face in her hands as we speak. So tell me, besides ice cream, what is her favorite food?
She's actually not a big sweet person.
No,
eh?
no, really.
No,
She
savory. Listen, we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about meat over here.
Oh, come on.
Remember, her mom's Namibian.
Okay, so the best
Prime
meat.
steaks.
Oh, now you're talking. Okay, so she's definitely doing something right.
Say hello.
Hello. You can say hello. Call mama. Where's mama? You can call mama and speak to her on the mic.
I say Baba.
That's beautiful.
she's
So
the best.
what's her favorite toy then? What does she like to play with?
Anything that's not her toy.
Anyone else's?
Yeah, the
Okay.
Tupperware and the stuff in the cupboards. If she's in the kitchen.
Yeah. Is she going to be a good cook as well?
I definitely think she'll be a good cook. Her mom's a great cook.
Okay, not you.
Listen, I'm good with like the simple stuff. We're talking
Yeah.
tuna salad. We're talking about,
Well,
egg salad.
if you're into Muay Thai, then chances are that's your staple anyway, right?
That's the vibe. But her mom, hearty food. And if you're okay, no, you so.
Yeah, she wants the smiley. Just be careful of the pin there.
I got you.
So, when it comes to bedtime, how does she like to fall off to sleep? Do you have to sing her a lullaby?
She loves music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing that calms her down first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Helps a little bit calm down in the evening as well. And now, I don't know, man. I don't know how kids do it these days or how parents do it. At the age of 1, she now knows if she picks up the TV remote and she points it at the TV, then something's supposed to happen.
And it
right?
works.
Yeah.
And it works. So she's way up there already. She knows how the system works.
She knows
Has
how
she
the
got a
system
hold of
works.
your phone yet?
Yeah, but she's not really that interested. She just
Yeah.
chews it.
That's beautiful. Okay, so I can imagine that she would love playing with animals. She
Yes.
sees them on TV. Does she
Yes.
have a pet at home as well?
Yeah, we got 2 bull terriers.
Oh, love
Yeah,
that.
but she's definitely an outdoorsy person.
Yeah, yeah.
Flowers and trees and ground and earth and. Who's that?
And do you all like going out as a family and doing family activities?
Yeah, so we regularly do hikes over the weekend, walk the dogs for about 5Ks and strap her in with us.
Oh, really? A 5Ks,
Yeah.
it's a decent distance then, hey?
With the over 10-kilo person strapped to you is not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should put another plate and start doing lunges. Maybe I'll get some
think so.
quads like her mom.
There is nothing like a family that trains together. She's absolutely beautiful. And Clint, I want to say a huge thank you for coming on to Reality Radio and for Oriel to join us as well.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, everybody. That's Reality Radio this Friday night. Make sure you join us again next Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on 919 Reality Radio. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend.
Feel the positivity. 919